Hey everybody, welcome to some Return of Reckoning, aka Warhammer Online fan project. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the best class ever created in any MMO ever, the Dwarven Engineer. Look at this guy. Look at this. You can't beat this guy. So the Engineer was the class I played pretty much throughout my time with the original live version of Warhammer Online. Ever since I saw the game before it launched and was looking through the classes, this class always spoke to me. It's engineer-like. It's got a rifle, a spanner, and we're going to in this video today we're going to talk a little bit about this class. Consider it an intro to the engineer class. It's not like a master's class or anything like that. We're just going to talk about what the class is, what it isn't, and if you might like it. You should definitely be giving this game a try if you like this type of MMO. You know, the tab targeting kind of MMO combat. Alright, so what is the Dwarven Engineer? It's basically a ranged DPS. Now, there are other ranged DPSs that are stronger if you want to go by like spike damage and things like that. So on the order side, I'll just talk about order mainly since the engineer is an order class. You have the Bright Wizard and the Shadow Warrior. They're kind of the two major ranged DPS. Also, the Archmage is in there, but that can be more of a healer as well. And then you have the Engineer. The Engineer is also a pet class. So one of the core, the core aspects of the Engineer is its turrets. So you get 3 turrets: a bombardment turret, flame turret, and a gun turret. These all align to the mastery trees. So we'll drop one of these. It's a gun turret, so it's basically a stationary pet. This one will shoot, bullets. It has special abilities like penetrating round, which will apply an armor debuff, and machine gun, 100 foot range. Now, when Warhammer Online was a thing, when it launched anyway, there was no real bonus to staying near your turret. The idea behind the Engineer class was, Engineers will see a defensive range DPS, which I guess is a little oxymoron. Defensive damage dealer. Kind of like, I don't know, it just doesn't, it didn't work too well because combat's mobile. And having to stay by your turret for no real benefit was a problem. Now, you can explode this turret to apply an AoE knockdown, but that's really all it gave you. In later patches, they added this thing called improvised upgrades. So now you get a damage increase of up to 40%. There's some caveats. When you're within a certain range from your turret. It builds up over time and fades over time. So it gives you some kind of benefit by sticking near your turret. And then, so you have your gun turret, your bombardment turret, which shoots grenades out, a shock grenade, and a high explosive grenade, which is like an AoE. This gives you those improvised upgrades. I can't say that word for some reason. As well. However, it also lets you cast your grenades on the run in this area, which is great because, standing still, throwing things is a good way to die. But you still have to stay within a certain, range of your turret. And then you have your flame turret, which is much more for up close and personal. It's got a flamethrower that does a cone AoE. 40 feet, and then it has this steam vent where it's like an AoE all around it and deals damage to everyone within 30 feet. So this is the much more up close and personal. So let's talk about a little bit about stats. Where's that? So, stats in Warhammer Online, there's a bunch of them. The one that engineers mainly need to be concerned about is ballistic skill. That's what almost all the abilities, I think all of them now, scale off of. So the more ballistic skill, the more damage your abilities are going to do as an engineer. When Warhammer Online launched, they had, they meant well, but some skills, they were very logical about it, like spanner swipe, where you hit somebody with your spanner. Well, why would that use ballistic skill? So they made it scale off of strength. However, there's no good reason for engineers to try to stack strength stats. That just takes away from their main skills. So it was very conflicting, and they eventually started changing that over so that, ballistic skill is what you want to concentrate on first. And there are caps, soft and hard caps, in the game. I'm not sure what Return of Reckoning has done with them, so maybe I'll cover that in a later video. But once you reach those caps, then you want to start looking at other stats like weapon skill. Weapon skill lets you do armor penetration. So the more weapon skill you have, you'll parry attacks more, and then you can also penetrate more armor. And that gets into another important aspect of the engineer, the type of damage it does. So the engineer does two types of damage, basically. First, physical. That's your auto attack from your gun. That's your gun blast, hip shot. Your gun skills deal physical damage. Physical damage maps to armor. So when you do an attack with physical damage, it gets mitigated by an opponent's armor. Armor, at least in the live game, had a soft cap of 75%. I think it was soft cap. I forget all these little details. But they could mitigate up to 75% of your physical attacks. And it turned out it was very easy for most classes to get up to that cap using skills, buffs, talismans, potions, things like that. And that kind of made physical, like gun skills, less attractive because there's so much mitigation. Alternatively, the other type of damage engineers do is corporeal. That's all the grenade skills. So, for example, Firebomb deals 291 corporeal damage to your target. Corporeal's one of the magical types of damage. Where's defensive stats? All right. So they're spiritual, elemental, and corporeal. Those are the magic ones. They have a mitigation cap of 40%. I think it's soft cap again. So you can already tell that it's harder for them to mitigate magical damage just based on the caps. So it just made a whole lot more sense to concentrate on corporeal damage because you're going to do more damage. And armor they don't have to choose. I mean, they can just stack armor up to 75%. There's 3 different resists that they have to choose between generally. So the odds of corporeal damage, actually is pretty good that they would stack that because Bright Wizards do a lot of corporeal damage too. I think they do. Yeah, they do. And so it was still the better way to go. Now, I know Return of Reckoning has added more ways to debuff an opponent's armor, so we'll have to see as time goes on whether or not the gun skills are worthwhile. But in general, corporeal/grenade skills are the way to go. As I mentioned briefly before, the turrets kind of map to the mastery trees. So you have a Path of Rifleman. This is kind of your gun turret and gun skills. Path of the Grenadier, your bombardment turret and grenade skills. Path of the Tinkerer is bit different. It's like this is where your flame turret is. It's much more up close and personal. You have a magnet which sucks everybody in. You have this lightning rod which you place like where you're standing, and it does AoE damage. So the Tinkerer is about kind of your immediate area. Alright, so I think that's what we'll cover for this intro for now. We're definitely going to do some more videos on the Engineer. There's a bunch to cover. I hope you enjoyed this. Get out there, roll yourself an Engineer.
On, and so should
it is the only really, it's the only good class, let's be honest. Especially with aesthetics. And you get turrets. Look at this thing. And guns. Turrets and guns. How can you go wrong? Alright, thanks for watching. Have a great day.